I spent 27 years in prison, y'all, and I'm going to tell y'all two of the most disturbing things to know in a prison. Number one, when an officer has it out for an inmate. When an officer has it out for an inmate in the prison, even though you may not have anything to do with the situation, it puts you in danger. Because once that officer knows that you know what they know, then they start to harass you. They start writing you disciplinary reports. Disciplinary reports, they call for short abbreviation, DRs. And that stops your time. That can cause an inmate that went in with 7 years and could possibly get out in 3 years with gain time to do the whole 7 years, because this officer is going to try to keep you in jail. They're going to try to do everything they can to get rid of you. And in the end, it results in some prisoners losing their lives. See, sometimes you walk up on things in prison you don't mean to walk up on. I mean, the prison ain't but so big. So sometimes you have crooked officers that's doing certain things with the prisoners, and you might walk up on it. That's going to put you in danger. So now you got to do your time looking over your shoulder as if you was in the street. Because the officers, they're going to continue to lie on you. They're going to plant things in your locker, and they're going to make sure that you're not on the compound. They're going to make your reputation so bad that your credibility going to be zero. Like, for instance, if you walked up on an officer and they was doing something with another inmate or giving an inmate something and you observed it, you may not even say nothing. But if that officer know that you saw them, they're going to start targeting you. And a lot of inmates have lost their life simply because they walked into a place at the wrong time. They didn't even say anything. They didn't tell anything, but they simply walked into an area at the wrong time. There was an inmate. She worked in the laundry room. And this, when I say inmate, I'm talking about prisoner. So she worked in the laundry room inside the dorm. Inside the dorm, there's a small little room where they keep all of our clothes. When they take it to the laundry worker that works inside of the dorm, she like folds the clothes and she put them in the little cubicles. They have the boxes where they put our clothes. After count, she went to the laundry area to go in because, you know, they give her the little key thing on a necklace because that's her job. So she went to go in there, and the officer was in there messing with another inmate. Like, he was manhandling the inmate, like pushing it against the wall, almost like rape type. Like, it was almost against the girl's will. Like, the girl was trying to come out of there, and he was like just pushing it against the wall and everything. So this inmate, she saw this happening. She quickly closed the door back and she came back in the dorm. Her eyes was real big. So everybody looking like, oh, what happened? But she didn't talk about it. So the next day, you know, the same officer, sergeant, he was a sergeant. He came in and he started targeting her. Now, this prisoner don't bother anybody, and she had 90 days left to go home. So she stayed to herself. He started targeting this girl. So everybody wondering, why he bothering her? Dang, what she did? She don't bother nobody. Why he bothering her? Well, come to find out, she walked in on him and the girl. And the reason we found out that it was about him and the girl is because she started talking about it to her friend. She confided in her friend, and her friend started telling everybody, like, yeah, he was trying to hold her down in the laundry room and this and that. So it leaked out. When it leaked out, it got back to that sergeant's ear. He felt like the girl that worked in the laundry room is the one that told everybody, but she didn't. People was asking her. Then finally she was like, man, I ain't got nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they got going on, they got going on. So one day we heard her name loud on the intercom. They called her name real loud. And they told her to report to the center gate, which she did. The center gate is the gate in the middle of the compounds that separate the two compounds. The main unit is one compound, the annex is another compound, and on the annex is where the confinement is at. They hold you in confinement. They'll hold you in crisis. Crisis is when an inmate is trying to commit suicide, so they put them in the crisis unit. All those areas and cells are over there. So they called her to the center gate. She reports to the center gate. When she gets to the center gate, they cuffs her. So everybody looking like, what she did, where she going? So she started telling people, hey, call this number, call that number. Hey, y'all, please call my mama. So she was like, my mama number, da-da-da-da-da-da. So people, you know, we know how the officers play. So people writing this information down. She was like, call my aunt. Let them know if something happened to me. They put me in confinement. They making me go protected custody. The sergeant was making her go protected custody to get her off the compound so she wouldn't talk. Because if you go protected custody, then they have to put you in a cell by yourself. You don't have no bunkie. Because protected custody means they have to protect you, which means you're in fear of your life. So they're not going to give you a bunkie. Because they know if they put an administration investigation, she can have a bunkie and she could possibly start talking. And that bunkie could get out of confinement and start telling everybody. So he wanted to make sure she wasn't around anybody. So they cuffed her up and started walking her to the annex. And she was just hollering out, hey, tell my mama, they taking me to protected custody against my will. I didn't ask to go. I didn't ask to go. I don't know what's going on. And, you know, everybody, like again, they writing it down because, you know, we're going to let her family know, hey, this is what's going on. So they get her down there to the confinement area. They put her in the room. Now, the next day, we hear this inmate died. So everybody befuddled. We like confused, like what happened? How? Now, they told us that it was blunt force trauma in the abdominal area. Like somebody, I guess, had went in and kicked her, just beating her, kicking her to sleep or something like that. But then they tried to cover it up and say it was her blood pressure medicine. But the autopsy read blunt force trauma in the abdominal area. So simply because this girl walked up on something that she wasn't even looking for, it caused her life. The second most disturbing thing a prisoner could know in the prison is that you have a terminal illness and may not make it home. Once an inmate find out that they have a terminal illness, they have to start preparing themselves as far as their burial and all of this stuff. They got to start getting contacts and family numbers and everything all lined up because you might not make it out. Once you find out in prison you have a terminal illness, it starts to deteriorate your mind because you already know that whatever is going on in your body, you're not going to get the right medication to be able to cure whatever that thing is. A lot of things could have been cured. A lot of inmates could have made it out with these terminal illness had they got the proper treatment. But prison can only treat you to a certain extent. Now, I'm not going to say that's their fault because a lot of the medicines that a lot of the ladies needed being in prison with terminal illness, they had to have it approved by the institution to have that type of medicine inside of the prison. So they got to go through the warden and the major to get permission or approval to have their doctors from the outside send the medication or be able to give them the proper treatment. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to allow the inmate to have the type of medicine they really need. Some people needed medicine that can really, really put you out of your senses, if you know what I mean. But they're not going to allow them to have certain medicine because it's a breach of security. Because some of the inmates, they would sell that stuff. And there has been a case where a girl was getting in certain pills and medication, and she sold it to another prisoner, and that prisoner took too much and lost her life. So once you find out that you have a terminal illness, you're not going to get the proper treatment, and it seems like you start to deteriorate like this because it start messing with your mind. The hardest thing to know is that you're going to die in prison. That's a hard pill to swallow, to know that you're not going home to your children, to know that you're not going back home to your husband, to know that you're not going to see your family again. It's a hard pill to swallow when you don't know whether you're going to get buried in a box or a proper burial, because your family hasn't been there for you in years. So you don't even know if they really even care enough to call, to check on you, to come see you in your last moments when you on your deathbed. I've seen prisoners' family that has never come to visit them, but as soon as they was on their deathbed dying of AIDS or cancer or some terminal illness or some brain tumor, that was the first time their family ever visited them. There was a girl that she had a couple hours to live. Her family never came to see her. All of a sudden, the family decided to come and have that last visitation with her. As they stood around her bed, somehow she gained strength by hearing their voice, and she came out of that coma. This girl was in a coma, waiting to die, and she came out of that coma by the grace of God. If you have family, lovers, friends that's in prison, and you know they dealing with a terminal illness, write them. Put money on the phone. Let them be able to call you, because that stuff helps. You know, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And sometimes when people could hear from their family, it gives them hope. A lot of the stuff we go through in prison, diseases, sickness, all of that stuff, it's a matter of the mind. Sometimes if the mind is right and in a good place, you can overthink yourself out of that stuff. So I just wanted to tell y'all, the two most disturbing things you can know in the prison is an officer's business and that you have a terminal illness. Y'all be blessed now. You hear? I'll be coming back with some more information. Y'all stay tuned.